Yes. My name is spelled with an E, not an A. Kimball, not Kimball.
Understood, sorry. I'm sure it was spell checkers.
For 8 years on this commission, I figure she's had a nice one.
We will modify the minutes. With that adjustment, do I hear any other changes? Otherwise, I'd take a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Cool. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Cool.
Aye.
Can I just give you a point of order? If you have, we had to do this for the select board. If you have a person on the phone, when you take a vote, you have to say your name and then vote.
Okay.
Just to be absolutely correct.
Barry, yes. Cool.
Yes.
Okay. You have to say your name, Barry.
There, yes.
Okay.
And then
cool.
you all have to say your names and vote.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Citizen comments. I'm actually going to start this off. I raised this. I was reading an article this past week about dairy farms and the price of milk in Vermont and the impact on the economics of dairy farms. Specifically mentioned were a couple of local farms, just citing the fact that they are having issues. I don't know what to do about that, but I raised that as a question. We're here for economic development, and economic development is not always about growing things. It also has to be about sustaining things, and farms seem to be part of our fabric. So I just raised that. I think we all need to be very sensitive to what's going on. I don't have a specific proposal. I do think that, we talked prior to the start of this meeting, there are probably a couple of farms here locally that are having some issues, and at some point offline, we need to go and to engage. Maybe there's something that we can do as EDC. I don't know. So I would just open that to any other comments or thoughts. Cool. All right, with that, I know John has. We saved it for you.
Amazing,
Yeah.
thank you. Sorry.
I'm John Wetmore, 30-year resident of Woodstock, and my thinking, very interestingly, was almost exactly in the direction that Tom just spoke. I was going to use the word sustaining as part of my presentation to you. I have a real concern that the bridge project is going to seriously and maybe irreparably affect two local businesses that I think have a lot of value in the community because of their diversity. In the former fire station, the red building, Primrose Garden, is a gift shop that's been there 30 years. Next to it, Who's Sylvia is a vintage clothing store that's also been in business 30 years. And
So Barry, just for your benefit, John gave us three pictures showing construction equipment totally blocking these two businesses that he is mentioning now.
thank you. I went to the meeting, the last meeting where the contractor spoke, and I left that meeting thinking that I was relieved because I thought we were looking at a 21-day period of severe impact, and then the rest was going to be more minimal from April 16th starting until May. These two businesses were blocked last week. They've been blocked this week. I spoke to the gentleman who's in charge in the office in the former Vermont flannel business and said, I thought it was going to be a little bit different. And he said no. And actually, those two businesses are going to be blocked for 2 weeks after that period of time that was in the presentation.
Why?
And I don't know why they need to park the machinery that sits right in front of the building.
So, John, is that why, just for 2 extra weeks,
Oh.
because the machinery was gonna be popped there?
I don't know why, but I would guess with the orange tape going to the left of to the right of the door so you couldn't get in, that it might be physically possible to go to one of these businesses. If it were a pharmacy and you needed your medicine, you would push aside the man in the yellow vest. But these are discretionary shopping. If someone's gonna look at vintage clothing and there's an orange tape blocking the store and there's a man in a yellow vest, you're not gonna push him out of the way for a whimsical purchase. I think that there should be something creative that could be come up with, even if it were money that could be loaned, that could be paid back when times are good. But it just seems like these two businesses in particular are getting affected extremely, whereas other businesses are going to feel the impact. I thought with all your experience and bright minds, there might be some solution. I managed that building, and I made a reduction in their rent down to the level of what sustaining the building cost the owners. So they're getting a rent reduction, but I think the income is going to be severely impacted, especially if it goes through May.
So John, just so I understand, based on what your understanding is, these businesses have first got impacted when?
2 weeks ago.
And it will now go until?
I was told by the gentleman that it will be 2 weeks after that 21-day period.
May 7th or something?
Yeah.
May 7th is a 21-day period.
Is that what it is?
In the presentation that they made, they said the bridge will be closed for a 21-day period between April 16th and May 7th. During bridge closure, traffic will be maintained, but
And then you're saying it goes out to the 21st now, 2 weeks after the 7th?
no, I'm saying that the main project is going to have its most severe impact from April 16th to May 7th,
Right.
which is what they said.
And
So
then you're saying there's gonna be an extension of 14 days after
I
that?
was told that, I went in and talked to him and said it seemed unreasonable that 2 weeks before that period of time, these businesses were already blocked.
Yeah.
And he said, and I said, that wasn't explained. And he said, yes. And he said, and in fact, it will be for these two businesses 2 weeks after this period of time that the same activity will be going on in front of them.
Just based on the numbers, so that is a total of about 2 months.
Yes, yeah.
John, was he conceding that the extra closure was unanticipated?
No, he
That was a
he
change?
said the opposite. I said I had attended the meeting, and I must have misunderstood, because I thought the period of time started April 16th. And he said, no, it was clearly explained that this impact was starting 2 weeks before then, and in fact, it will continue for 2 weeks after.
So John, I have 3 questions. First, did you bring this up with the town?
No.
Yeah, okay, this is the
Yeah.
first time. Second,
And my thought was that I wouldn't think that regular Woodstock taxpayers, that the selectmen or the trustees would have an interest in financially supporting an individual business. But I thought this economic development group, and my thought was to use the word sustaining, which Tom beat me to the punch, that I'd like to sustain these two businesses if we can find a way of doing it. Because they're...
but my question
Yeah.
was more in terms of the contract with the town, managing the contract and what kind of interruption there would be to that business. It could be
Business
that there
disruption.
was
you know, there was a provision that said those businesses would not be affected, and what you're saying is they're clearly affected. And
I'm saying any one of us here walking by them, and I know Joe does, visiting his daughter's business, will see that they're blocked physically.
Yeah. The two other questions.
Yeah.
One is that across the street, the Collective
Right.
is closed, right?
I don't know.
Or they will be closed, and I
They
think
will
that-
be closed, but they're not closed now.
Right, and the contractor had made an arrangement to actually pay them to stay closed
I
for
don't
that
know
time
that.
period.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that was a deal cut well before the construction started. So it's interesting to see if they would apply that same logic to this contract.
Right.
I guess the third question is, do either of these businesses, I have a fourth question, either of these businesses have business interruption insurance at all?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the fourth question is, what's the address on the building for the record?
sure. 26 Central Street.
Okay.
That's a good thought, Charlie. I would guess that they don't.
Probably not, but I
Because
don't know.
in managing the building, we've had discussions about the impact on their rent
Yeah.
and made an accommodation, so I think they might have brought that up, but I don't know.
But there may be clause in a typical business insurance plan that has a business disruption piece to it. It may fall in that, but I agree. I mean, if Collective was able to do something, they ought to go after that and see what they can do.
Yeah.
Well, let me explain, my experience with that.
Yeah,
When I had heard that the Collective was being compensated, I came to Phil and I asked him, what's the process? How do you find out, if we would be eligible for that compensation also?
right.
And I learned from Phil that it isn't the company that's compensating, it's the state. So he gave me a number of the gentleman who represents the state in these matters.
Yeah.
But I called, there was left a message that wasn't returned. Sam called, and she explained geographically where we are, next to the
Right.
bridge, and that it would impact us. And he said, well, I'm sorry, but that would not make you eligible. The Collective is being made eligible because apparently the agreement is that the company, which I think would apply to this place also, the company is allowed to store stuff there while they're doing their work, like a compressor or some other tools or stuff like that. So because of that, they will be compensated.
Yeah.
And they said, you're too far away, you're not going to be compensated because, that's not going to happen with you
Right.
guys. It seems to me, looking from these pictures, that would be the
Story.
case, that the state should get involved, and if we have somebody here representing the state, that could be looked into.
We should also be able to understand how much money the Collective is receiving.
Well, anything would be welcome, I would think,
No,
right?
no, I'm just saying, I mean, there should be
Right.
something
Yeah.
that would be disclosed as to
Right.
the compensation
Right.
they are getting.
Sure.
Yeah.
It would help to frame what the
That's
ask
got to be public
is.
information, I would guess.
That's the thing, is I don't even know how to frame what an ask is.
Sure.
I feel,
John, I would be happy to work with you and pursue stuff with both the town manager and the state, if possible, and see what things are there. If you can also work with your business occupants to see if they have any kind of insurance that they could gain something
Yeah.
from if they're closed.
That
Because
makes complete sense. I can find that out. I'm not taking this on as my cause for the rest of my life. I thought, as a citizen with citizens' comments,
but I'm going to take exception to that. You and I talked 4 months ago,
right,
and you raised it then.
I did.
And I'm just offering now
I'm assuming
that,
you've discussed similar
So
concepts.
it's duly noted you're not going to fall on the
Yeah.
sword over this deal, right?
No, I'm glad to help
Yep.
those two
Sure.
women and to ask the questions that you're asking. But I thought, as the committee with
Cool.
some funds to work with, that sustaining a couple of businesses that are already here, have been here for 30 years, and are different than other businesses.
You would
You
think
know,
something like
that-
this would have a business disruption piece to the expense.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me that they don't.
Cool. Thank you, John.
Because we have been approached by other business owners that anticipated a decline in revenues for that time period and were looking for some kind of compensation. And
Sure.
our answer to them was, it's April,
Right.
I think. That was
Yeah.
our response.
No,
So,
I agree, and
yeah.
I think the difference that I'm pointing out is that Montford will be affected more than my real estate office underneath
Yeah.
the corner of Elm Street, but you can still go in and get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that,
You
you're right.
can't physically go in here.
Yes.
I mean, there's a piece of orange tape that I know the shopkeeper didn't put up, and there's a person standing there in a yellow vest,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
working, and to me, that would signify caution or
That's
danger.
that's the argument they gave us
Yeah.
at the cafe. You know, you can still go there.
Right.
It may be more difficult. but you
Absolutely
can
would
still do it.
impact the business, though,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It'd be great to have signage that says detour to the next set of shops
Yeah.
or something that kind of got people going like this and, just to
It would just,
have some.
and I'm not speaking about their financial status, but it would just be awfully sad if
Yep.
a business closed and we found out that a couple months of no business was the final straw.
Yeah.
And if there was a kitty of money that could have been offered to be paid back or something. So I'm looking for your creativity. But thank you.
Thank you very much, John.
I didn't mean to speak as long as I did.
No,
Thanks.
Thank you, John.
I will offer one more that I've received inquiries to, nothing formal, but on River Road across from Billings, next to Sustainable Woodstock's community plot that's there.
Garden?
There was a request of, gosh, could we consider having a dog park? Don't know where that's going to go, I'm just mentioning that as another comment that was received.
So what land would that be?
I don't know who owns, that was the question I immediately asked. Again, I don't know how Sustainable Woodstock and what the arrangements are for that piece of property in the first place. I don't know if it's Woodstock Corporation and what the arrangements might be, don't know. Any other citizen comments? With that, then moving.
Tom?
Hey.
Yeah, just one quick thought about those stores. If those stores are accessible, but it just does not look like it's accessible, what about some kind of a variance to be able to put a sign up indicating that they're open? It's a minor effort, but it could help.
It's a fair point that there is no signage at all. To John's picture, they clearly look impacted or closed. Blocked. They're very uninviting as opposed to some of the other stores. So I agree with you. A sign saying, yes, we are open might be helpful as well.
Yeah.
It's a fair point, Barry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And at the end, at the orange tape or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Financial, so with some of the changes, as a result of the election, we are moving into the big leagues, folks. We are now, we now get official monthly reports that we're getting from the town. This is awesome. We're also creating accounts, so that all of our funding requests become accounts. There's rules, procedures, all very necessary, and so it's all good. So I'll give you, first of all, an update as to where we are. We did in February receive an additional $74,749. That means the total receipts since the inception is $645,000. In trying to measure and again, we really don't have tremendous number of metrics that we use, but one metric that is reasonable to use is the change in the amount of money that we receive, because it measures rooms, meals, and alcohol. So it becomes a reasonable measure. The $75,000 we received in February is up by just about 8% from 1 year before. So that becomes a good delta. It hasn't been consistent. Some quarters are up by 4%, others are up by more, but in total, it does seem that there is an upward tick year over year as we go. If we look, and again, I'm not going to try to give you too many numbers, but our fiscal year goes, and it starts kind of the 1st of July until the following June. So measuring our fiscal year 1, we received $209,000, and for fiscal year 2, we received $250,000, which represents a 20% delta. So in total, we are trending upward, all of which is good. In terms of actual spent money where we have written checks, we have written checks for $206,000. We have additional commitments beyond that, but we do also still have a reasonable amount of money that is free. So I would, we will continue to tighten up. One thing, and I'm going to make a proposal, I want to show everybody, for all grants now going forward, we have a grant application cover sheet that we have to complete. And with that, it identifies the project and it needs to be supported, et cetera. One of the things that we've never done for any of our funding grants is to put a time limit to when the monies have to be requested and spent. And I'm making a motion that we make the basic assumption is that within 60 days from select board approval, unless otherwise noted.
I so move.
Cool. All in favor?
Joe D'Italia, aye.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So you each need to state your name and then your vote.
Okay,
so that he
you're
can
correct.
send
And
it
we
to
went
me.
to a vote too quickly, prematurely. Barry, please, you have discussion.
Do we need to state the 60 days? It seems like, application for, say, an event may come in sooner, it may come in early, and there may be some things like the annual or the year-long grant for the Bluff Island concert series. What if the motion were amended to indicate that there will be a timeline to be determined before we approve the grant?
I guess, Barry, the motion was unless otherwise stated.
Got it, okay.
And so there is on this wonderful application cover sheet, the select board decision date. So we do stipulate a date, and if in fact for a given, funding like the one you cited, it was not to be 60 days, it was to be longer, that only needs to be noted. But otherwise, it would seem that once the request was made, the funding was made, and then the project could then be closed. I mean, we still have projects, and that's part of what's here, is that some of the projects and votes that we took in 2 years ago are still open, and we need to close those. So anyway, that was the nature of the request. Does that satisfy?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, to Jill's point, we will then, I guess we'll just go around for a vote.
Aye.
Courtney says aye.
Jason, I.
Kimball, yes.
Julia, yes.
Tom, yes.
Joe, yes.
Mika, aye.
Michael, yes.
And Barry?
Barry, yes.
Okay, cool. And I would also like, in the nature of finances, to make 2 requests to the commission and seek approval for, or seek motions. One is that we put aside administrative expenses in the amount of $2,500, and we will stipulate on this. This would be for a year going forward. We found that when we were trying to do coordinator hiring and other things, we had no monies that we could spend. And so this is really just earmarking a certain amount of money for us to be able to have freedom to spend. So I'd request a motion for approval of a request for $2,500 for administrative expenses.
That's like petty cash kind of thing?
That's it.
Is that to carry over to the next year?
Or, we'll put some time frame. Absolutely, Michael, yeah.
And if you felt you needed more because of extraordinary costs, we'd
We would supplement it specifically. It's just that, as we, I needed to make copies today for tonight's meeting, and we have no monies, so.
Courtney, motion.
All right, Courtney makes the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second, Michael.
Discussion. Okay, I'll start with you, Barry. Again, the vote. Go ahead.
Yeah, Barry, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Michael, yes.
Mika, yes.
Joe, yes.
Tom, yes.
Julia, yes.
Kimball, yes.
Jason, yes.
Cool.
Courtney, yes.
The second request is for the community website for $5,000. We're going to cover the website, but this is part of as we're starting up to cover content development. The advertising money is coming in, and we just need to continue to be able to support what we're doing. So this would be hopefully a one-time request that in fact could be paid back in the amount of $5,000
For what exactly?
for content development.
You mean to hire a person?
Yeah, we have a person that we are paying and to make sure that we're putting in Instagram and other things like that. So I would look for a motion. Do it again,
Yeah.
Courtney?
Yeah.
Cool. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. We'll start with you, Courtney.
Yes.
Jason, yes.
Can I have a discussion on this?
Oh, please, I'm sorry.
Sorry. I was just, so at a previous meeting, we voted to, never mind, take it back. I think I was thinking of the $7,500 to the chamber for
No,
event
that's-
management, which
no,
is
sir.
a totally separate thing.
Yep. Any further discussion?
This is for what, the year, for 6 months, or?
It would be
Until it runs out.
until it runs out. I think it would be the
So it's
way
like
to
an hourly
say.
kind of wage thing?
It is.
that how
We
it goes?
pay somebody based on an hourly basis, and
How much do you give me?
$20 an hour. And so it would be monies that, hopefully, as we're selling advertising and doing other things now, we are no longer us having to front load this, but it's really more from a cash flow point of view.
So is there a chance that it'll be reimbursed to the
That
EDC?
eventually, when we do the 50/50, hopefully there might be jump. Further discussion?
My only discussion on this point is that I think that it's worth considering, and this is not meant to slow anything down,
Right.
but it is, and this is a larger point, that paying for people to make content, I would like for us to be assessing spending money on paying for people to make social media content versus, for example, supporting Who is Sylvia and making sure it stays open, because Who is Sylvia, for example, gets a lot of earned impressions, right? Something like that gets a lot of Instagrams. So I just think that it's worth considering in the longer term, if we are allocating money to paying someone to do social media, I at least believe that we should be allocating some money to keep Who is Sylvia open, or other such stores.
Cool. Well stated. Any further discussion? With that, I'll go to the vote.
Yes.
Aye.
Cool.
Kimball's a no.
Yes.
Tom's a yes.
Joe is, yes.
Okay. Mika?
Mika, yes.
Michael, yes.
Okay, cool. That covers it from financial. We'll then move to subcommittees, and so we have 4 subcommittee reports. We'll start with promotion and website. Courtney, do you want to lead, please?
Yeah, the first piece I had on there was about analytics, but it's too early yet to kind of go over that, but we'll share that, how we're progressing. We'll give it about 3 months to see really how the traffic is. We're still building the site with content, as we just talked about, so to make it to the point where it's really got a lot of power, it's still going to take us a bit of time to get more and more content, and a lot of that has to do with everybody participating in the site from a business standpoint or to a community standpoint to load up stuff. I mean, we have everything from the real estate on how to live here, some of the things that other subcommittees will be working on that need to get in there eventually. So hopefully as the more SEO we get in there, we should be able to see some better presence online. So I just want to mention the analytics now, but we're not going to talk about numbers.
Cool.
Advertising, so the good news is the advertising campaign has begun. We sent out 3 emails now, and Beth helped out.
To 37 businesses.
Yep.
We've sold
3?
the banner ad for the events, a primo ad for lodging, and a primo ad on the homepage to date.
And that's without a whole lot of effort. So we now have taken on Jim Kelly.
We hope.
We hope. We are working on that. Should I even mention his name?
Well, no, but that's fine.
Okay.
I just was,
So
he's
we have-
considering it over the weekend, so
Yes,
if
yes.
anybody sees him, please offer
Tomorrow.
tremendous amounts of encouragement.
Jim Kelly currently, he has his own business, new own business, Vermont Media, I think it's called now, which
Vermont?
he's selling a variety of different advertising mediums, such as the what's it
Vermont
called?
Standard?
The Great East. It used to be called Great Eastern Radio.
Yes, he works for them.
Yeah, it's not called Great Eastern
Great
anymore, is it?
Eastern
Yeah, it
Radio.
is. He does works for Vermont Standard, sells their ads. So he's kind of the consummate ad sales guy that's around here. You'll see Jim very often walking around with his Bluetooth and making calls. So I know from a marketing guy how motivated he is in his thoughts and ideas, and being able to talk to people on advertising, that he'd be a good fit, I think, for us. He knows most of the players.
It
So-
seems like it would leverage very well the work that he's already doing.
Right.
He's making phone calls to those people anyway, and so offering options.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So it's not clear, Jim Kelly's gonna do what? He's gonna be the content guy?
He'd be
No.
Selling advertising.
Selling advertising.
And listings based on a percentage of what he sells. No commitments, it's all based on performance.
Okay.
So is he an independent contractor working with the Economic Development Commission or the town, or with the Chamber of Commerce?
Community website would be the way I would define it.
But there has to be an entity to which, who issues a 1099 at the end of the year, so who is that entity?
I would think it would be the town of Woodstock.
Yeah, it would have to be totally so.
Oh, wow.
We could probably set it up both ways, right?
I don't know that.
We
It's a good.
definitely could.
Yeah.
But, that I think is the website committee needs to discuss that. Right now, I've sold them, just for the chamber, not for the chamber, but for the website. We want to, we
Right.
need revenue.
You have to be clear, we're not adding an employee to the town roles and
Or the chamber.
the chamber
It's
roles.
a contractor.
This is a independent contractor paid on commission only.
Yeah.
Should be a contract in place before the deal gets
Correct.
consummated with.
Yeah.
Right.
Who would be responsible for that contract?
Yep.
Website committee.
The website committee. We'll end up having to draft it.
Okay.
Yep. It's a fair question. Thank you, Charlie. Good.
So in that advertising, we identified several different platforms people can advertise. Right now, we have the listing, premium or enhanced listing. We have the feature listing and a primo feature listing.
Correct.
And the banner for the
Events
event,
calendar.
and we have the sponsors for the blog.
We haven't done that yet.
We haven't done that yet, but that
We
would be
haven't
the
done
next one.
sponsor.
We put pricing to all of them.
Yep.
We felt we were probably a little conservative on it, but we want to get people started and going.
And we don't have the analytics yet to sell like we will in the next
Correct,
6 months.
yeah.
So we're selling 6 months right now.
Yep.
That was the intent, 6 months, and we can review in 6 months.
By then,
when we know more.
The website will kick in and
Correct.
So we have Billings Farm, Woodstock Inn, and
sleep
Sleep
with
Woodstock.
Woodstock so far.
Yeah.
And so going backwards, we had sent out 3 emails, gave people a kind of timeline to come in and say what they wanted to. We didn't have, not a lot of people responded to that, so it really comes down to
We've
cold
started
calling.
reaching out and calling people we have relationships with.
Yep. We will become very active.
We have a retainer contract we've got to sign, and that's something we have to fund, and we want to fund that with our dollars that are coming in. So we'll have some money in that pot very shortly, be able to pay for that. The other part of it, we were looking at the enhancement contract. There's a maintenance retainer, which is general stuff to fix something maybe going wrong on the site, or pretty easy. I almost look at them as easy fix stuff. An enhancement retainer, which is a separate one, which at least for now, we've delayed that to kind of see what we may run into that doesn't really work after what we approved from the initial site. So let's just say we have a whole different section that we wanted to add that we didn't think of, or the menu at the top of the homepage isn't exactly the right fit. So we would have to go and do sort of a design change, and that's an enhancement. So we're delaying that. I mean, first we said we'd delay 6 months, but I think we're just going to ride along and see how we go and make lists of things that we think that will eventually have to be enhanced, and then go to a contract as we feel we need to get work done.
And have money.
And have money, yeah.
Yeah.
So the key is having money, and that's what we're working on right now.
We're working hard.
And the last piece, you want to do the social?
No, keep going.
All right, we have
No.
social media. We still have Lauren Hanna, who is doing work for us, writing blogs, and
Instagram.
Facebook. So that's part of it. One of the things we've been discussing with Beth is trying to combine the social media from all in one step. So I think we still have some further discussion there. The social media person really feels that it's something where the chamber can still kind of own and run that piece as much, but that should be the large contributor into it, or whoever else we have further down the road that can contribute to those pieces. The blog is actually just a website piece separate from that. So the part of that discussion is we haven't completed yet is trying to look at whether having 2 Facebook pages out there that represent and kind of doing most of the similar things, of each other and then kind of competing against each other versus trying to fold it all into the whole project from the website all the way through. So I think there's a little bit further discussion it has to have in the chamber board. And I'll just table that for now.
Cool. Thank you.
That's it.
Moving on then to next subcommittee, Economic Resources. Who's covering that?
Barry and I are.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll
cool.
jump in. I'll start. First, Optimist Center, I just wanted to point out that they've responded phenomenally to a couple conversations I've had. One in follow-up to the memo that we received from James Zillian. They did host a brainstorming session, and it seemed like it was, I was able to pop in for a little bit, seemed reasonably successful, although I'll say that I did not notice any town merchants there. There seemed to be a dearth of participation there. They're also, they've been coordinating with the chamber and the kind of the visioning effort that's being spearheaded by Ron Miller. They're hosting a chamber mixer next week. They're doing the follow-up brainstorming.
Hold on one second, Barry, if I could. Just that visioning, who's taking the lead? I'm confused. And maybe for everybody's benefit here, Ron Miller, was it 2 months ago or 3 months? Joe, I'll ask you because you were there as well. In other towns, there had been a visioning process that was undertaken, and Ann McSood shared a video, I think it was in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so that was proceeding, and then the Optimist Center was moving forward. Are these two coming together, or are
Ron
they?
is spearheading an effort which will determine how we as Woodstock best do a visioning project. So he's putting all of these things together and getting all interested parties together with the outcome of this is how we can do a visioning project.
And right now, Sustainable Woodstock with Sally Miller, Ron Miller, the Optimist Center, and the Chamber are meeting to try to investigate how to move this visioning, big community-wide visioning forward.
So no decisions at all. He's,
Okay.
he's
So
just
I'm-
making the conversation happen.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So, I mean, at least it's trying to come together and we don't have different efforts going in different places. Okay, great. Thanks, Barry. Go ahead.
Sure. And so the follow-up will include some leaders from both Bethel and Bennington that will be sharing their experience with regional branding and town visioning. So it sounds like that could be a good session. They're also hosting a grant writing workshop, and I'm going to hand off to Julia. That's our segue into our grants.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. So I am working with Travis to do a grant writing workshop. Here are some pamphlets or papers, flyers to hand out. Where it's going to happen immediately after the next brainstorming session, which will be from 4 to 6 on Thursday the 12th, followed up by a grant writing session, which will basically cover an overview of what the EDC grants are doing, what they have done, a really deep look at the application, a conversation about what money has been, what have been the successful grants that have gone through, best practices for grant applications in general. And the idea is outreach to, in particular, young business owners. And we're having it right after the brainstorming session, such that if people come together and have some really good ideas, if there's two people who really hit it off and want to spearhead some sort of initiative, we can kind of capitalize on that energy. And this came out of conversations that I've had with a couple of younger business owners in the community who, when I've mentioned, you know, you have a really good idea, what you're saying sounds like a great idea, you should look at EDC grants, they seem somewhat mystified by the process. So we're doing one on Thursday, April 12th, one on May 24th, in anticipation of the June granting deadline. If any of you would like to come and help me out, that would be great.
Help you out now.
Just speak, people are going to have questions, I'm sure. And
What
I
are
don't
the
think
times? I'm sorry.
it's at
6
6
o'clock.
p.m. on Thursday,
6
April 12th, and on May 24th. I've put together a little handout just going over what very basics of what EDC grants are and what they do. That said, I'm very aware that I haven't been through a granting process yet. So, Q&As, it would be great to get one more person
I'll
with
help
me.
you. I'll be there on the 12th,
Yeah.
6
Yeah,
o'clock.
I plan on going also.
It's in the
I was-
calendar.
I was planning on going just to learn something.
Well,
but
yeah.
If you need me to move a chair or something like that, I'd be happy to.
Fantastic.
He's good at that. I've seen him do it.
Yeah. So, you know, and the thought process is also that, speaking of earned impressions versus paid for impressions, you know, a number of these local companies, smaller local companies, who is Sylvia, Abracadabra Coffee, Montvert, they have more followers than,
Yep.
dare I say, Woodstock Sorry, Courtney. So let's get people working together, and, you know, let's make earned impressions happen rather than spending EDC. Let's spend EDC money on the businesses themselves, which we can all enjoy as town members ourselves.
Cool.
So that's the idea.
Excellent.
Okay.
Great, thanks. Yeah, we're excited about it. I mean, both it's some targeted grant writing, but also we're reaching out to that demographic that we're trying to attract. Loans, we've mentioned before we were having some difficulty finding assistance. We've reached out, we're in conversations with both Lake Sunapee, a conventional local bank, and Mascoma Bank, which is a B Corp bank. They seem so far that Mascoma Bank is showing a bit more interest. There'll be more later as we continue. And probably most importantly is the housing study. So we've received 5 applications from Vermont, reaching out as far as Ohio and California, the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's
We narrowed it down to 3 and then to 2. And we just hours ago we made a selection, and we'd like to recommend that that we hire Doug Kennedy Associates from Norwich to do the housing study. It's looking like it's about a 4-month timeline to a final product. There'll be some kind of interim deliverables, and our thoughts are that we would. The Economic Resources Group, we put together a committee of some EDC members, and we would reach out to the community, to people with maybe some specific skills that would both work with Doug to refine the scope, kind of fine tune it a bit more to what we have in mind, and then ultimately to work to digest the final product, and summarize it, ideally develop some strategy, recommended strategy from that, and then present it to the community. Any questions about Doug Kennedy? I guess we need to vote as a commission on whether we accept that recommendation from the Economic Resources Group to move ahead with Doug.
Can you tell me more about that group or person?
Yeah, so he's part of a big part of what pushed him to us is that he does have a lot of local experience. He's recognized and respected locally for that work. He's done similar work. We did review some housing studies for other Vermont communities. Let's see, what else? And I will say that we will have some work to do once we receive it. What we do not get is a punch list of do this and this and this, and your housing needs will be fulfilled. But he does do a good job of kind of gathering and organizing and analyzing the available data.
And I'll chime in here and just say that one of the other things that at least tipped me toward him versus the other front runner was that he has significant experience in other small-ish towns that have done really good job with revitalization efforts, such as Hudson, New York, Beacon, New York, and also he's done work in White River. So he seems to have a good breadth of experience in that regard.
Where's he from? Norwich?
Norwich.
You said White River?
Yep.
That was some of the more recent stuff they've done?
So if we don't get that punch list, what is it that we get and how do we go from whatever we get to the punch list?
Well, that's what this committee will do, is we'll need to do some interpretation, pull some highlights from it. And I think that when we first talked about doing the study, partly the intent was to have the data, to update some existing information and to have to have the data, have the analytics available to be able to move forward in some way, have it available to potential developers, have it available to local planners and regulators, so we can make some informed decisions about proposals that might come up, and so that we might be inspired to take some action or to kind of prioritize our efforts and our funding. A short answer is there's not an answer. What do we do with it? We don't exactly know yet, and I think that was the intent going into it. But what our thought in the subcommittee is that there would be a group that would be working with Woodstock and would be best suited to interpret what he provides and determine what the best use of it might be.
But will that group have the knowledge base to be able to do that conversion of data into conclusions?
There will be some conclusions there, but
Okay.
once again, we're volunteers at this price point. This is what we get.
Okay.
If we want somebody to put together a 20-year housing development plan,
Yep.
that's gonna cost something else. That's a different effort.
So the folks that were involved in this decision were?
It was me. It was Sally Miller, Sonia, Julia. Julia, help me.
Yeah,
Lucas?
Charlie chimed in.
Yeah.
Charlie was there.
You were there too?
I was not at the meeting, but I
Hey,
read all the
Charlie.
reports, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All the submissions. How much is it? 1,500?
15,000.
15,000? No, I didn't hear that.
Okay.
How does it?
Um,
How many people is he promising to get to?
I'm sorry?
How large will the survey be?
How-
It's town-wide,
And how many
region.
people?
I mean, it's the whole bill.
So he's, I think Barry, if you're still there, the methodology that he was going to use was not only just a survey of residents or potential residents, but also then market analysis as to what the housing demand had been, what the impacts of housing introduced in White River Junction had been on the Woodstock housing market, Airbnb, that's also part of it, to do some kind of analysis on what that does for local housing needs. So it's very large. So there's no number in terms of the number of residents he was going to survey. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, he does have some attention to the region, recognizing, Comfort, Barnard, Bridgewater it's kind of part of our housing complexion.
The action required is then to make a motion to accept the choice of, the name is Kennedy?
It's Douglas Kennedy, Doug Kennedy Associates.
To accept that proposal for the housing study for $15,000 with delivery in 4 months.
Right.
Is that a fair motion?
That's a fair motion.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion?
Is there any kind of, anything that I can hold in my hands or I can look at that can show me anything about them or what they do, or,
Yeah, we got some proposals that are in a Dropbox.
Oh,
So
okay.
If you want those.
Okay.
Right
Will
here.
you share that with the commission then, please?
Absolutely.
Great. Are you okay to move forward without seeing that at this point, Mika?
I firmly believe that a housing study would be incredibly helpful.
Okay.
And so I suppose I can go on blind faith that if due diligence has been done, then
Cool. Is there other discussion?
Yeah, I'm looking at one of his studies now, and I'm seeing Doug Kennedy Advisors.
Modify the motion then, please.
Doug
Thank
Kennedy
you. We
Advisors,
accept,
yes.
we accept that modification. I would then say, let's start with a vote. I'll start with Michael.
Yes.
Say Michael, yes.
Michael, yes.
Mika.
Mika, yes.
Joe, yes.
Tom, yes.
Julia, yes.
Kimball, yes. Jason, yes.
Courtney, yes.
Barry.
Barry, yes.
Okay, cool. Anything further for economic resources?
That's it.
Great summary, thank you. Civic revitalization, we liking that title better, Joe?
A much better title.
Thank you.
I just have to figure out how to spell Kimball and I'll be fine.
I have signs.
So, moving on, who's going to take the lead for this subcommittee?
I'll do it.
Okay, cool.
Although not exclusively, we've got very capable and intelligent people that I work with that will chime in at any time, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Without hesitation.
We had,
It's a very shy group here.
well, you should see us with a bottle of wine.
Where's the food? No food, Joe.
We had 5 applicants
Yep.
that responded to our RFP.
And you've all
And you
received
shared that with
those?
everybody?
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we met with them all, and we did it, we worked very hard at doing that because of the timeline set by the commission at the last meeting, that we'd come back with one
Yeah.
for this commission. So we have done that, we've narrowed it down to one. It is Du Bois.
We all
I
thought
call
it was
it
Dubois,
Dubois.
but apparently
Dubois.
they pronounce it Du Bois.
Du Bois and King from Randolph. They're a firm of about 100 employees. They have 3 locations, one here in in Randolph, and 2 in New Hampshire. Their staffing includes, and one of the things we were really impressed about them was their staffing includes just about everything you need to know from experts in the field, right in-house, and goes through traffic control, land management, landscape architects. They have electricians on staff if they need electrical work done. It's just, it runs the whole gamut of everything you need. You can just pick up the phone and say, hey, can you get down here? We need your input.
And a variety of each. So there's no lack of brainstorming available to them at any
time. They were very big on community involvement. Very big. One of the guys that came, or one of the people that came and spoke was Chris Sargent, who is a
land use planner.
Land management planner. And he spoke at length about how to involve the community in different ways of doing that. Things that we didn't think of, venues, how to go about reaching out to people and getting their ideas about what they feel about the plan, and if they have any changes they'd like to make, or yes or no about one of the ideas that we had. And I was really impressed with that, and speaking with these guys, and they were too. So that was one of the reasons.
Do you want to pass this down in case anybody wants to?
Yeah, and this is something that.
So the thing that I just passed down there, the first one is their proposal. The second one is what they came to their interview with. So the second one is something that you guys wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Who got one? Jace, you got one?
Yeah, we can share, thank you. Yeah.
If you kind of leaf through it.
Happy to share.
This is what they came to the meeting with. There you go, Mary. Extremely well done, very professional. They had answers to all our questions. A lot of the other folks that came, when we asked them questions, they responded with more questions.
Right.
Like, what do you think? What do you think? Well, that's what you're here for. These guys had the answers, and
they had ideas. They had really great ideas.
yeah. One of them, like I was really impressed with, is on the page, I think it's the third page in, where you see there's a mural on the Mechanic Street wall. I was particularly impressed with that because maybe Charlie remembers, but 10 years ago, I was involved with trying to get a mural painted on that very wall.
Yeah, I remember.
And it went into committee, and it got, discussed, and finally agreed that instead of a mural, they're gonna put up paintings. And I got delegated to maintain the paintings for like 3 years until they were not repairable anymore. But I never gave up on the idea of doing a mural on the wall.
Yep.
They came with this without me ever having discussed it with them.
Well, and I think it's important to say that these are just ideas.
They're just
And
ideas.
so
Yeah.
their whole, they came.
They're what?
It's gonna happen.
That's right, Mika's doing the mural.
So they came to us with a variety of ideas that ranged from, markers on the sidewalk that would, sort of imprinted into the concrete that would lead you to trails, it's like
That's
different
an
ways that you could.
That's an offshoot of Wayfair signs. And instead of cluttering up the whole community and the whole downtown with even more signage, one of the options they came up with was just having, as Mika described, these markers in the sidewalks, directing people to specific places we want to direct them to.
Or arbors, so the bottom line is, the point there is that they came in with a variety of ideas, all of which would be vetted, and, all that, whether you do or do not like markers in the pavement, or do or do not like murals, it's really neither here nor there. Bottom line is they're very creative and very open-minded.
Sophie, who is the lead on this, lead architect, she also has extensive experience with working on bike traffic and bike lanes.
Cool.
And what was pretty cool, obviously we can't widen the streets, but one comment that she had is shared bike lane, and you can do these things on a trial basis to see how they work out before you 100% implement them. So.
And before you spend a lot of money.
pretty cool ideas.
Nothing to do with those random cruiser bikes that seem to go all over town.
Yeah, the ones with
With baskets?
GPS tracking on those.
People that are lost.
Yeah.
I think the bottom line, I think what we're trying to say, they came to the table with ideas, and great ideas, and open to more ideas from the community in any way that we can listen to the community and implement any ideas they may have.
Can I
And they came
pick
in with
up
a
on
lot of
that?
Sure, go
experience.
ahead.
Mhm.
You folks have done a great job in creating interest in revitalization. That you've done. And what I'm hearing is, now there's efforts on trying to think about what do we do on the green, and so what I'm wondering, and again, the title is Village Revitalization.
Right.
I'm just wondering how, instead of, I'm wondering if this incorporates as much as we need to incorporate.
Yes, and I'll get to that right now. What we request of them is a village-wide conceptual plan. And what was explained to them, that obviously this cannot be done in 1 year. And it's going to take a little time. And so it was necessary to prioritize, segmentize, and then prioritize, what should be done first. What would have the greatest visual impact and give the town an opportunity to say, this is what's happening with our money, so they can actually see it. One of the things, what we thought would be the best way to handle it was do the green first, and then work from there. Having said that, I spoke with Gary Trulander last night on the phone, and we had a great talk about, how we can collaborate on this idea. I met with him this morning, and we took a little tour. Well, first of all, he gave me the ideas about the new lighting concept they would like to have for on the green. And he showed me a sample of the light that they would propose or would suggest using. And then we took a little ride around and identified places where the lighting would be, how to straighten up, because his main focus is right now is the green. And I explained to him, I said, I think that's great, and I'm really happy that we can collaborate on this. But it has to, in my opinion, it would be best served if there's a unified look throughout the town. In other words, what happens on the green is carried through to the rest of the village in terms of lighting or benches or trash receptacles or any of that kind of stuff. It's kind of a uniformity that would be set. And so I was so happy to shake his hand and say, I am delighted that we can partner on this and get this thing done. Probably because of the partnership, it'll get done a lot faster, and it'll get done with more input from more people who tend to benefit from this. So, and notwithstanding, he already has some money raised that could be used. And from what we spoke this morning, there's more money to be raised that he's going to have access to. So, yes.
I love this project, and
Thank
I
you.
really, really want to do it, but I'm a little horrified that we won't get a final report till December. And I wonder if there's a way to talk to them
Thank you. That's a
about
very good
working
question.
in stages so we could actually achieve something in 2018.
Yes, very good
That was
question.
a conversation that we actually did have at the
Okay.
meeting. This little spiral bound was given to us just before we even started the interview process. And it was an idea, they said that they can work with us on whatever. This was what they proposed based on what they thought about tourism and about people being around to give their input. People aren't around in the summer to give input on whatever. So this can be altered.
Good.
Yes.
And in that vein,
I'm sorry, was that their timing or our timing?
They were trying to, they are
they were
basing
trying
it-
to give us a presentation of what they thought would work, but they were being very flexible about it. And they're saying, this may not suit you, but we're just trying to give you a sense of what would kind of be a logical way to proceed.
And they're also giving us their experience of, okay, so people are often gone during these certain times of year, during these months.
Yes.
So it would be difficult for us to get all of the input from all of the community members that we would need in this short period of time if half the town's people aren't here. And that is a big part of their, their presentation was community support.
I think a big part of the whole product too, though, is understanding how people come here to visit and come through.
Right.
And we're about to go into our busiest season of
Right.
the year, and the sooner we can get started really looking at that, we're gonna have to wait a whole nother year to really see that.
Absolutely.
Well, not necessarily, because Gary and I spoke about that.
Yeah.
And what I suggested was, since we will establish this partnership, I suggested if the commission votes to hire these people, then I don't know when the select board meets next.
Monday.
Monday. Hopefully they will approve it. And if that happens, then I suggested to Gary that even next week, that he and whoever on the chamber he designates, meet with us, and we will get these people and combine at one meeting, trying to get an idea of what can be done and what kind of time frame and how quickly can we get things done. Now, my own personal sense is that what could be done immediately, Gary wants to get things done by June. And that takes a lot, because what we talked about is literally scraping up the green, aerating it, planting new seed, all that sort of stuff. You're not going to get that stuff done by June. What can be done is you can straighten out the fence, you can install the lighting, get rid of the shack, and what is good, these guys have electricians right on staff that they can call on to reorganize the electrical stuff that's required at the green, get the lighting done, and the fencing done. Hopefully get that done, maybe some bench work or some, tables or whatever. Get that thing done now, and more visual stuff right now, and then probably, because I spoke with...
So let me ask a question about that. If in fact we already know what we're going to try to do on the green, do we need this study? Why don't we just put the money?
It's not a study, it's
not
a
study,
plan.
It's a plan.
Well, I'm sorry, but there's already a plan, and
There isn't already a plan.
And the problem
Gary
with...
sounds like he has a plan.
Gary has a plan, and all due respect to Gary has a plan that's written down on the back of a piece of paper.
Well, and it's a plan for the green.
It's a plan
And
for
so
the green,
the plan that we're
not for the whole
proposing
village.
is a plan for everything. And if we work together, as Joe's saying,
Mm-hmm.
and collaborate, then that would mean that the work that Gary's trying to get done on the green ASAP can be done in tandem with a larger plan, so that it looks
So
cohesive
the green isn't
when
a
it's all
separate
said and
country.
done.
The green is part of Woodstock and what goes on through the whole community. And so in order to do that, you have to have an idea of what's going to happen through the whole community. Start with the green, yes.
So,
Jill,
and again, I'm going to go to Jill in a second, but you interchange words which are town and village. And what you're describing is a village plan, but you're saying that this is something that goes throughout the town, but yet there is no monies or investigation that looks to West Woodstock or to Tassville or to South Woodstock and so on. This is really a village plan.
So we're having a hard enough time getting $20,000
I understand that,
to
but I'm
just
just trying
do
to be
the
clear to
village.
the
Fair enough.
I'm trying to be
Everybody
clear
wants
to the
to do-
expectations that are being created. It is
a village revitalization project.
And everyone wants to
Right
do the
there.
town. Everyone wants to do the town, but it has to be done in stages, as everyone knows it
Village
has to be done in stages.
revitalization project.
And
not
I mean, a
town.
big part of this is people are coming to Woodstock Village. From there, it's a springboard to the other places that they don't know exist.
fair.
And the whole
I-
point
I'm
of
just-
this project is to alert those people to what's out there.
And if we can get people excited, if we can make some tangible changes that are that are beautiful and excite the townspeople and the people that are coming in, then getting the rest of the project funded and done is so much easier.
Okay, cool. Barry, before I go to you, Jill was requesting, so I'll go to Jill and then come back.
I was just going to reinforce that we need a plan, because if you think about if we're doing lighting, if we start doing paving, if we do sidewalks, the town has money to spend on those things and we'll ask for more, but we have a highway department who need to be planned in as well.
Of course, everybody has to be involved. And that's exactly what we're planning on doing.
Okay, so that's,
Wait a minute, I'm back to Barry, and then I'll go to Charlie. Barry.
Yeah, I've still got some confusion. I'm hearing that you found somebody to do a village-wide study, and then
Plan.
partnership.
Plan.
Okay, plan. And then the partnership doing something on the green that's going to be done by June. That's a whole different thing. I thought all what we were talking about was a plan. And are we conflating two different things here? Because if we're talking about partnering and doing work, we haven't even started to talk about where the money's going to come from to do any of this work and to partner with. Help me out.
So hang on. So I'm building a house, and I just hired an architect to come in and design my house and make the whole kit and caboodle. It's not going to happen anytime soon. It's going to be at least 3 years out. But I need a kitchen. And I have $25,000 right now to do my kitchen. I don't want my kitchen to look like it doesn't match with the rest of the house. So I'm going to ask the architect to build it so that I can make that kitchen happen right away. And I can start cooking right away, and here's my money. And in the meantime, can you make sure that the kitchen still works with the living room and the bathroom?
I love the comparison and I understand it, but the question that Barry is asking, the money to do the work on the green would conform to the plan that this person is coming up with. But the monies used for the lighting would be coming from elsewhere and not from the EDC, is that correct?
Well, at least some of it will be. Now,
He did
what we're
request-
asking for tonight is money for a plan. Now, the plan is going to involve everything we've just previously discussed. And then at that point, we move forward to implementing the plan, once it's discussed and agreed upon what's to happen next. Gary has already, and I'm including him in this discussion because I think it's vital, has already started on this project, probably unaware of what we were doing. And to his credit, once he found out what was going on with us and how hard we were working on it, he called us and touched base with us, and I got together with him, and what we would like to do, instead of, okay, you do this and we'll do that, or we're going to go forward this way, you can go the way you want to go, why not get together and do a cooperative effort into doing the whole town? And starting with the green, which Gary thinks is important right now, which we thought was important anyway, because we had articulated to everybody that applied that we thought that would be the priority. The kickoff point would be the green, so that would be more visual. Given that Gary's already thought about that and has already taken some steps in that direction, why not collaborate in partnership there? They have some money. They have some money to get started. They may need more. At which point, we'll come back to start to implement the plan and say, okay, we've got the plan, everybody's approved, we'd like to take the first step, and we need some matching funds.
If I understand correctly, Gary was planning to come to the EDC,
And that's
looking
money
for a
anyway.
matching grant anyway.
Okay, cool. Charlie had a question?
I did, but I don't, but now I do, so the question.
You have this problem often?
Wouldn't believe how often, actually. No, but I guess my question right now is, what is the request before us? Right now, I think.
Right now, the
before
request
us
is
to-
for $20,000
Yep.
to hire these people to develop a plan.
I motion that we hire Du Bois and King to develop a plan for the civic revitalization.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
And so all we're doing is hiring this person to do a plan. Is that right?
Company.
Yes, I believe the only motion that we have really to vote on right now before us is the development of the plan. If in fact there is a request for funds to do the work on the green, then we're going to have to look at that a separate time.
That's
That will come
right.
out separately,
Section of
exactly.
the-
Exactly right, Chuck. Thank you for that clarification.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll go back to that side of the
Courtney
table.
says yes.
Jason says yes.
Kimball, yes.
Julia, yes.
Tom, yes.
Joe, yes.
Mika, yes.
Michael, yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Good job, guys. Let's go home.
Oh, no.
Oh, we have been working very hard on this, and probably went through 5 to 6 bottles of wine.
Any
Got
other
to it.
updates from civic revitalization?
Not at this point.
Cool. Recreation Asset Subcommittee, any updates? Hearing none, we will move on then to new business. Any new business?
I only have a point of information. It might be new business, and that is the cell phone service in South Woodstock, which is Coverage Co. I've shared some information about this. Coverage Co. is a company that was contracted by the state to provide cell phone coverage in very rural areas. You'll see if you drive through South Woodstock and look up on the telephone poles, they're little antennas. They're about this tall, about that wide. And the person that had this contract with the state was Vanu Bose. And Vanu died in December or November of heart attack, or no, pulmonary embolism at the age of 52. But since then, the company has experienced financial difficulties. The contract doesn't really pay for itself. There's not enough roaming going on. This existing cell phone service does not include AT&T, which is the largest carrier, and so it was limited anyway. But the towers went dark last week. And so there's no cell phone coverage really in South Woodstock. The state has put out some requests to other companies to try to take up the service. It ain't going nowhere right now, and that's because the antenna are 2G technology, and we're already on to 4G with 5G somewhere off in the offing. So
Didn't I
anyway.
read something today, though, that there was another proposal requesting state funding?
I don't know. I know that may have happened today between the time I left the State House and came down here. It's very possible. There was a couple of companies that were being courted to actually do this work. VTEL, I spoke with them on Monday, met with them, and they really have no interest in doing or picking up the 2G technology. They do have their own cell phone service now since November, but it does not cover that particular topography because the valley comes down and the tower's not in the right spot.
That's why we don't have broadband and...
Yeah, there's all sorts of issues. There are a couple of alternatives. There is fiber now to the South Woodstock store, and they certainly have a Wi-Fi, I'm assuming at this point, so you could log on to Wi-Fi, but it is not the same as cell phone service. So.
You do Wi-Fi over cell though, so this worked in South Woodstock today.
Yes, good. So Wi-Fi, if you have an Apple phone, then you can actually do that, or if you can hook onto a Wi-Fi and use something like Skype or some other VoIP service, then you can use a phone. But if you just expect to have your Sprint telephone or something else receive service automatically, it ain't going to work through that. So anyway, so that's just an update as to what's going on in South Woodstock, and there's no solution immediately at hand, but people continue to work on it.
Thank you for the update. Any other new business?
I have a question for new business, I guess, that'll circle back around to the who is Sylvia conversation. Is there anything that we can do to try and help with that without them coming to us? I mean, we
Well, I'll
need.
note that Jess has expressed a desire to come to us.
Oh, great. Okay, so they know that if they wanted help, that they would need to come and ask for it, right?
It's a matter of the granting deadline.
Yes.
That
The
she
what
would-
deadline? I'm sorry?
The granting deadline's not until June, and her concerns are much more immediate.
I understand.
She came to the town hall meeting, I think this, not the select board meeting, the village meeting, to ask about the free parking in April. She had been hoping that if nothing else, the free parking would continue to bring some people into town. I don't think she had anticipated the degree to which, at least from her comments at the meeting, I don't think she had anticipated the degree to which this would disrupt the business.
Well,
So-
there are some action items, so we'll hear more.
Yeah,
We'll
okay,
keep everybody informed.
okay.
Any other business?
I just have one thing, and maybe being new to the commission, was that how much discussion has it been in the past of creating a budget that is ready to spend besides that $2,500 we approved today? Let's say there's a pocket of $50,000 a year or $25,000 that goes directly towards some sort of marketing, direct marketing of some sort, and then another pot for the three different areas that we have in developing that budget in the long run. So I actually, as new business, maybe we discuss it, or we could just table that as an agenda item for one of our next meetings, not to hold everybody here.
Cool. We do need to do a better job in that regard. Yep.
Just a comment on that, because there was a question when the options tax was first proposed to put together an annual budget. And at the time, it was decided or determined that we didn't need to do that for the voters to approve on, because the select board would be ratifying any recommendations or voting any recommendations that we made to come out from the dedicated economic development fund that was a result of the revenues coming from that. So there wasn't a requirement. That doesn't mean we shouldn't, but there wasn't a
Right.
requirement.
That just may be easier for us to march forward,
Yep.
having it on an annual basis.
Yep.
Sure.
I nominate Courtney Lowe to head up the budget
Yeah.
committee.
Cool.
Second.
All in favor, no discussion.
I'll make sure all that snow in the front lawn stays.
I would now take a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Yes, is he gonna keep with us?
He will stay with us. Record that at 8:29.
You do come back out.
We will come back out. Yes, we will. Stay tuned.
How long are you going to be?
That is hard to specifically answer, Macy. I don't know. We're going in to review selection of EDC coordinator.